The Stanislaus complex fire destroyed 100,000 acres of valuable national forest timber, watershed, and wildlife habitat in 1987. Many of the reforested areas in this large land rehabilitation project conducted by the U.S. Forest Service were planted through donations from the Penny Pines program. Stanislaus Forest in the Groveland region. This was burned by the Stanislaus complex fire back in 1987. And what you're seeing right now are saplings that were planted by the U.S. Forest Service under the Penny Pines program. Now, how do I know this? I know this because this looks like a park. This looks like something you would see in your front yard, like in Groveland where I live. And notice here, these are all weeds from Europe. So during the summer, these are going to grow up. Now, fire can sweep through here really fast because the weeds are here. If this was naturally regenerated, you would have a lot of shrubs here, ceanothus. But the ceanothus was pulled out before these were planted. So what has happened? You don't have a natural understory here. What you have are weeds. And there's an argument going right now, and I think it's right, that fire can sweep through these, what are really tree farms, faster than a naturally regenerating forest. Okay, so now I'm walking up a road towards a reforestation project by the Forest Service and the CCC. This is a fairly large reforestation project. I think it was started maybe 3 years ago. Anyhow, we're going to see a lot of compaction of the soil and lots of trees planted. What I'm looking for right now is areas around the areas that were compacted that still have ponderosa pines that are dead, that have ceanothus under it, to see if we have any naturally regenerated pines. And I want to compare the areas that were left alone to the areas that were replanted to see if we can see any differences. Getting closer to the reforestation area, and I just noticed that there are a lot of ponderosa pine growths popping up everywhere, exactly where the rimfire burned through. 100% mortality of the trees. There's a lot of trees there. So that begs the question, why did we remove all the brush and plant ponderosa saplings when we have ponderosa saplings coming up on their own, which has the ceanothus around it to fertilize the soil? So that's a really pressing question that I have and many ecologists now have. The area of the rimfire that burned through intensely, there are some trees that survived on the ridgeline. It looks like you have a lot of trees about 8 years old coming up here. It's on the south side of the slope where it's a little moisture, where I'd expect ponderosa pines to be regenerating. Point being is that they are regenerating, and yeah, I'm gonna keep going here. Okay, so one of California's most famous botanists was Whitney, and he's the one who Whitney Peak is named after, and he's one of my heroes because the reason is, unlike most botanists of his day who would take some form of transportation, whether it's horse, it might have even been a few automobiles in his day, I'm not sure. Point being, he didn't take anything. He was like John Muir. He walked everywhere. He said, to be a real botanist, to really get a sense of the land, you have to walk. And so that's why I walk dozens of miles through the rimfire burned area, because I want to see with my own eyes where these groves are popping up. Now, if you're just taking a truck along to a sample site, you're going to miss all the groves popping up. You're not going to see them. You have to walk slow and look at everything, and that's what I'm doing. And so I think the reason why the Forest Service and the general public is unaware of natural reforestation is because forests don't regenerate in one park-like structure. There's little pockets that pop up here and there, and that's how forests work. They're not static. You know, forests are a mosaic. If you were to take aerial photography of a forest 100 years ago, there would be patches of burned areas, old growth areas, mid-growth areas, and newly developing areas. Okay, I'm coming across my first slash pile. And a slash pile is basically where loggers will take basically lumber that's not profitable, and eventually the plan usually is to burn them, although, you know, I don't know when they're going to get around to that. So after you have a high intensity fire go through and you have 90% mortality, salvage logging occurs. Salvage logging is the idea that basically you're going to salvage all the timber that was lost. But here's a problem with that. The word salvage really means a financial loss, and salvage isn't the correct term. Now I'm on the reforestation project right here, and if you look around, there's European weeds everywhere we look. Okay, so anyhow, with the salvage logging, the Forest Service makes a lot of money out of it. And so there is an incentive to quote unquote salvage log these areas and then replant them, you know, with the right species of pine at the elevation, and call that reforestation. But it's not reforestation. What's really going on here is you're basically planting a tree farm. And a tree farm is like a park. And parks have weeds that need to be taken care of constantly.